I welcome you to my channel. Subscribe and listen to my new stories every day. The day began with a sense of normalcy. I, Alex Carter, a man who prided myself on a well-ordered life, was about to have my world turned upside down. It was a brisk autumn morning, and the leaves swirled playfully on my front lawn as I fetched the newspaper. But as I crossed the threshold back into the comfort of my home, my phone buzzed with a message that set the stage for the ensuing chaos. "Hey Alex, have you seen my family ring by any chance?" the message from my lifelong friend, Tom, read. His grandfather's ring, a hefty gold band engraved with intricate designs, was a family heirloom he cherished above all else. "Haven't seen it, Tom. We'll keep an eye out," I replied, my thoughts already drifting back to my plans for the day. But the seed of unease was planted. Tom had been over last night, along with a few other friends for our weekly poker game. It didn't strike me as unusual then, but his departure had been hastier than usual, his forehead creased with worry. Hours later, as I vacuumed under the bed, a rare burst of domesticity inspired by my wife Linda's gentle nagging, I saw it. The glint of gold amidst the dust bunnies was unmistakable. Tom's ring. How on earth did it end up here? With the ring secured in my pocket, I headed downstairs, my mind racing. Before I could process the implications, a more pressing discovery stopped me dead in my tracks. From the slightly ajar door of our guest room, soft moans broke the silence of the house. My heart hammered against my ribs as I pushed the door open. The scene before me was like a physical blow. Linda and Tom, tangled in the sheets of the guest bed, their guilty faces turning towards me as they realized they were no longer alone. The room spun, and a cold fury settled in my chest. "How long?" I managed to ask, my voice a mix of hurt and anger. "It's not what it looks like, Alex," Linda stammered, but the betrayal was clear as day. Tom, looking equally guilty, dressed hurriedly. "Alex, I'm sorry, man. This was a mistake." "A mistake?" My laugh was hollow. "You betray me, in my own house, and call it a mistake?" I didn't wait for an answer. I told Tom to leave and never come back. As for Linda, the coldness in my gaze was enough for her to understand that this was the end. Over the next few days, I plotted my revenge meticulously. My marriage, once the cornerstone of my happiness, was now nothing but a painful reminder of betrayal. I contacted the best divorce lawyer in town, presented the evidence of Linda's infidelity, and made sure the proceedings favored me overwhelmingly. As the divorce finalized, I ensured that Linda's reputation was irreparably damaged, revealing her deceit to our circle of friends and ensuring she could find no sympathy among them. She moved out, defeated and alone, her life in ruins as she faced the consequences of her actions. And as for the ring, I returned it to Tom with a simple note: "Keep your treasures safe, and your secret safer." With that, I closed the chapter on my old life, the weight of the gold band in my hand a reminder of the cost of trust and the price of betrayal. The ring felt heavier in my hand than it ever had before. Dropping it in the mail felt like dropping the final curtain on a play that had gone terribly awry. The metallic clang of the mailbox echoed in my ears, a stark reminder of the finality of my actions. I had severed ties not just with Tom, but with a part of my own past that now seemed like a lie. I spent the next few days in a blur of activity. The quiet of the house was deafening, the empty spaces filled with echoes of betrayal. It was in this silence that I plotted my next steps. Linda had taken her things and left, her absence a palpable void in the once warm home. But the coldness in me found solace in planning. Each step was a move towards reclaiming my life. I started by changing the locks. It was a small, symbolic gesture, but as I turned the key in the new lock for the first time, I felt a slight shift within me. The security system was next, upgraded to the latest technology. If I was to start anew, it would be on my terms, in a fortress of my own making. My phone rang incessantly during those days, friends and family wanting to weigh in, to offer sympathy or judgment. I spoke to few. The one conversation I couldn't avoid, however, was with my sister, Ava. "Ava, I've handled it," I said as soon as I picked up, cutting off her words of caution. "Alex, ruining Linda's life? Is that really the answer? What about healing, moving on?" Her voice was a mix of concern and disbelief. "Healing?" I scoffed, my grip tightening on the phone. "She made her choice, Ava. She has to live with the consequences, just as I do." "But vengeance? Is that who you are now?" There was a pause, and when she spoke again, her voice was softer. "I worry about what this is doing to you." I considered her words, the silence stretching between us. "I appreciate your concern, Ava, but I'm fine. This is about justice, not just revenge." After hanging up, I couldn't shake the nagging doubt that had crept in. Was I losing myself in this quest for retribution? Shaking off the unease, I focused on my next move. My career as a software developer allowed me the flexibility to work remotely, but now the walls of my home office felt like they were closing in. I needed a change of scenery, something to stir the stagnant air around me. I booked a trip to Iceland, a place I'd always wanted to visit but never had the chance. The landscapes there, wild and unyielding, seemed a fitting backdrop for the tumult within me. As I packed my bags, I felt a spark of something that had been missing for a long time: anticipation. However, the day before my departure, an unexpected email arrived. It was from an old friend of Linda's, someone I hadn't spoken to in years. The subject line read simply, "Need to talk." Curiosity piqued, I opened it. The message was cryptic, suggesting things weren't as straightforward as they seemed. She knew something important about Linda and Tom, something that could change everything. Torn between the desire for new horizons and the pull of unresolved mysteries, I made a decision that would once again alter the course of my journey. I responded, asking to meet her as soon as I returned from Iceland. As the plane took off the next day, the land below me growing smaller and more distant, I wondered if I was fleeing from my problems or flying towards a solution. Only time would tell. But one thing was clear: the intrigue was far from over. The cold winds of Iceland were as unforgiving as my resolve, biting through my jacket as I stood overlooking the black sand beach of Vik. The waves crashed violently against the shore, each one a reminder of the turmoil back home. The landscape was a stark contrast to the heated emotions I had left behind, yet it matched the storm inside me. As I trekked across the volcanic fields, the raw beauty of the place slowly began to seep into my bones, offering a strange sort of peace. But it was a temporary respite, as each night, my dreams replayed the betrayal, vivid and accusing. On the fourth day, I received a text that jolted me back to reality. It was from the old friend of Linda's, Melissa. "Back in town. Can meet tomorrow. It's urgent." The message read. I confirmed the meeting and booked my return flight, my brief escape coming to an abrupt end. The plane's descent into the city was a metaphor for my return to the chaos of my life. As I drove from the airport to the cafe where Melissa and I were to meet, my mind raced with possibilities. What could she know that was so urgent? Melissa was already there when I arrived, her face etched with concern. She stood up, her handshake firmer than I remembered. "Alex, thanks for meeting me on such short notice," she began, her eyes searching mine for signs of the old friend she once knew. "Of course, Melissa. What's going on? What did you want to talk about?" I prompted, my voice steady despite the pounding in my chest. She hesitated, taking a deep breath before speaking. "It's about Linda and Tom, and you. There's more to the story, Alex. Something you need to know." I leaned forward, my interest piqued. "What is it?" Tom wasn't just having an affair with Linda. He was involved in something much darker, more dangerous. And somehow, Linda got pulled into it too. The revelation struck me like a physical blow. "What are you talking about? What kind of danger?" "Gambling debts, Alex. Big ones. Tom owed money to some really bad people. Linda was trying to help him sort it out, to protect you. It wasn't just an affair. It was desperation. The pieces began to fall into place, each one a bitter pill. Had my thirst for revenge blinded me to the truth? So, you're saying Linda, she did this to protect me? My voice was a mix of disbelief and dawning realization. Yes, Melissa nodded, her expression somber. She thought she could handle it, keep you out of it. She was wrong, obviously, and everything spiraled. The cafe around us faded into a blur as I processed her words. My revenge, based on a half-truth, had shattered everything. The weight of my actions, once righteous, now felt misguided and cruel. I need to make this right, Melissa. I need to find Linda. Do you know where she is? She gave me an address, her hand resting briefly on mine. She's at her sister's place. She's scared, Alex. Scared of what's coming for Tom, and maybe for her too. Leaving the cafe, the clarity of the cold air was a slap to my face. I drove to Linda's sister's house, each mile stretching out as I rehearsed what I would say, how I could possibly begin to make amends for the havoc I had wreaked on her life based on my own hurt pride and hasty judgments. When Linda opened the door, her surprise quickly turned to wariness. Alex? What are you doing here? I know everything, Linda. About Tom, the debts, why you did what you did. I'm so sorry for how I handled everything. Can we talk? Standing there, at her threshold, I was unsure of many things. But I was certain of one, my journey towards retribution had taken a new path, one that might lead to redemption, or further ruin. Standing in the dim light of Linda's sister's living room, the shadows seemed to accentuate the lines of strain on Linda's face. Her wary eyes, however, couldn't hide the flicker of hope when I mentioned knowing the truth. Alex, I don't know what to say, Linda stammered, her voice a mix of relief and fear. There's more to it, isn't there? More than just the debts. I pressed, my instincts telling me the whole story hadn't been revealed. Linda nodded, tears brimming in her eyes. Yes, but I couldn't tell you before. It was too dangerous. Not just for you, but for me too. The air between us was thick with tension as she took a deep breath and continued, Tom got involved with some really dangerous people. Not just gamblers, criminals, Alex. When he couldn't pay back the money, they threatened to hurt you unless I helped them. And the affair? My voice was cold, hard. It was part of the coercion. They used it as leverage, to keep me compliant. I'm so sorry, Alex. I never wanted to hurt you. The pieces clicked into place, a sickening puzzle of manipulation and threats. My rage boiled over, not just at Tom, but at the unseen puppeteers who had orchestrated my misery. Where is Tom now? I asked, my voice low, dangerous. He's trying to make things right. He's meeting with them tonight, to end this once and for all. Where? The single word was a growl, my resolve hardening into something lethal. Linda hesitated, then scribbled an address on a piece of paper. Here. But Alex, please, be careful. These people are monsters. I left without another word, the address burning a hole in my pocket. The drive was a blur, my mind consumed with thoughts of retribution. The meeting place was an abandoned warehouse on the outskirts of town, the kind of place that thrived on shadows and secrets. I arrived under the cover of darkness, my car lights off, my movements silent. Peering through the windows, I could see Tom, looking desperate and alone, facing two menacing figures. I didn't hesitate. Bursting through the door, I confronted the scene with a fury born of betrayal. Alex! No! Tom's shout was a mix of shock and fear. The two thugs turned, surprised by my interruption. Before they could react, I was on them. Years of pent-up anger exploded through me as I fought, fueled by every lie, every deceitful moment. They were tough, but I was relentless. When it was over, the two men lay unconscious at my feet. Tom stared at me, aghast. "Alex, what have you done?" "What needed to be done," I replied, my breath heavy, my hands stained with the fight. "Alex, I was trying to fix this. By dragging my wife into it. By lying to me." My voice was icy, cutting through the heavy air. Tom looked defeated, broken. "I thought I could handle it. I was wrong. I'm sorry." But sorry wasn't enough. Not anymore. "I never want to see you again, Tom. You're dead to me. And if you ever come near me or Linda again, I won't hold back." Turning my back on him, I left the warehouse and the remnants of a friendship destroyed by greed and cowardice. As I drove away, the adrenaline slowly receded, leaving a bitter taste in my mouth. There was no joy in this revenge, no sense of triumph. Only the cold realization that some broken things could never be mended. Linda and I parted ways forever that night, the deception too deep, the betrayal too sharp to ever forget. We were victims of circumstances, but the hatred of betrayal cut too deep, severing what little connection remained. In the end, the cost of vengeance was high, and I paid it alone, a hollow victory that echoed with the ghosts of what could have been.